Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So you have undiagnosed ADHD, and then
Yes,
you told me that you are discovering your diagnosis through
yes,
discovering your son's diagnosis, and right now you feel like you are navigating and discovering what his support needs are as you discover yours. You describe it as, how do I navigate me parenting myself with these new support needs that I'm discovering about myself while I support my son with his own discovery of his support needs, having a non supportive family.
yes.
Okay. Could you please tell me a little bit more about the how your journey's been parenting yourself with undiagnosed ADHD and helping your son who is diagnosed and the interaction with your family, and then we go from there.
Okay, well, with myself, I feel like I always knew something was a little bit different, but it was one of those things where it's like you have to get over it. Growing up, I'm from a Mexican family. In our culture, there's a lot of like, get over it. Don't let it bother you. Just ignore. You are not trying enough. You need to try more. And so with my son, he's now 7 years old, but he actually began his diagnosis around, I want to say 2, 3 years old. We actually had some complications through the pregnancy, and then after he was born, that's where the journey started, like one thing after another, where I could tell certain things, like with the eating, certain things with being overstimulated with sounds. And when I brought that to the attention of his pediatrician, the first thing she suggested was keeping an eye on a list of symptoms that she gave me to be able to tell, is this just something that he's going through right now at this age, or could this be anything more? And I feel like the more information I got as I was trying to help him, I'm very big on trying to break those generational curses. And so for myself, that was my biggest focus, was how can I help him, and how can I be there for him and help him have a better childhood and even adulthood by educating myself, by learning more. That's kind of what just took off. The more I knew, the more I realized, like, that makes sense. This makes sense. And then the more I found out, oh, it's also genetics plays a huge part in there. That brought a big realization upon myself once I started realizing, well, I'm very much like dad in this. Well, I'm very much like mom in this. And for myself, if I ever did bring something up growing up, it was that same thing, just not emotionally available. Just deal with it on your own, get over it, you need to try harder. And now, if I do bring something up to their attention, if they are caring for my son and I say, like, hey, don't force the feeding, or be a little more patient, or sometimes you just need to do a tap on the shoulder so he can turn around. He doesn't need to be screamed at. Mm-hmm. It's usually kind of like brushing that under the rug. Like, I know what to do. I've raised kids before. Or, look at you guys. You guys are fine. Like, really?
Are you really fine?
Yes. So that's pretty much the point that I'm at now.
Mhm.
It's just kind of like figuring out, sorry, I get emotional, but
It's
basically
okay.
just figuring out how to be there for myself so that I can love those parts of me that were not loved. While loving those parts of my children so they don't have to repeat those cycles.
How can I be there for myself so I can love the parts of me that were not loved?
Yes, big one.
What are those parts of you that were not loved?
I'm noticing that the majority, if not everything, has to do with those symptoms and traits that we carry. And I believe, from my own perspective, seeing that certain traits come from my parents and how they also have a hard time dealing with those parts of themselves, that's where it's kind of taught me in just observation that they also didn't have somebody who was supportive of them, that they are kind of repeating what was told to them. And so I kind of have to like reprogram that voice in the back of my head. That voice that's like, you need to stop being so loud. You stop talking too much. You need to stay still. Stop touching everything. Those things that I'm now realizing are very normal were not normalized growing up.
So when you were okay, so your intention for this time with me is to understand or to give compassion to your support needs so you can give compassion to your son's support needs, and more importantly knowing how to stand up for those support needs from a place of empowerment and not shame and guilt.
Yes.
Okay, I think I got your intention. So let's talk about those support needs. So you said stop being loud like they told you, or you felt growing up that you needed to suppress yourself. You needed to suppress your authentic self because it came up as what? For example, some parents with ADHD, hyperactive type, tell me that they feel they were too much and they created that narrative, I am too much. Okay. Did you create that narrative as well? Like if I show my full self, people cannot handle me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm too much. Any other narrative that's coming for you?
Um, I think, would you mind maybe some examples? Because I think this is where I'm trying to educate myself on like proper verbiage kind of thing.
Okay. One thing that comes up a lot on parents with ADHD who have neurodivergent kids as well is that they projected this narrative of I am too much onto their kids. So it is may look in this way. If their children are being too loud, quote unquote, or if they're touching a lot of things, or if they are hyper, then they feel the rushing need to suppress them if the family members are around.
Yes, that is true.
Okay. Okay. And usually what they tell me is not because they believe they could be suppressed, but because they have the fear that their children are going to experience the same rejection they experienced growing up, having the same behaviors as their kids.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. So when you have that fear of if my son is showing his authentic self, he's going to be rejected, what's your default response?
With my son, that he's 7 years old now, he's very well aware. He actually says that it's his superpower. So with him, we've worked very, very hard on empowering him. So we worked very hard on empowering him and teaching him to have a voice and speak up for himself. And he's very good at that. That's one thing that would worry us. If we are not around to stand up for him, we would like them to stand up for themselves. And that's something that we've been working on very intensely. I do see the people pleasing in him, and he is the only grandson. He's the only male, so I do see the people pleasing, the surrounded by powerful females in our home. So that's something that has been working for us so far. Is just teaching him his own traits, his own needs, so that he can speak up for himself. So he's very good at saying, I need space. Can you just tell me one more time? I was distracted. He's very good at that. And so that's where we're pushing that little boundary to set our own space in our family. You need to accept it regardless.
Okay. Okay. So
don't for those judgment opinions.
even when your family members are around, your children or your son, he could express his authentic self. And then even though there is kind of like a fear in you that if he keeps showing his authentic self, he's gonna be rejected, you don't do anything to suppress that authenticity. You still let him. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you don't have a default response. Um, a lot of parents do. That's why I went there. Um, they have the fear that their children are going to be rejected the same way they were rejected. So they kind of like go to the same pattern of suppressing their children authenticity so they would not feel rejected, but the children end up feeling rejected by their parents. if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. So, in this regard, the things that you are doing with your son, keep doing them. Even if it feels scary for you, if he's going to keep showing his authentic self, he's going to be rejected. Because when you suppress his authenticity, you go back to the same cycle that you lived. I have to accommodate myself for the comfort of others. So you're doing great there.
Thank
Now,
you.
now what I would say is for you, when you see that fear in you,
Mm-hmm.
that if he continues being loud and touching everything, he's going to end up being rejected.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go there for a second. If in fact he's being redirected by your mom or whoever, like, you're being too loud, how do you see yourself responding to that at that moment so his authenticity is not suppressed?
Most of the time, my go-to is kind of like separating. So my go-to will be like creating a space where he can be. So if he's running around the kitchen and it's like, be quiet, get out of here, give me my space, all that, it's immediately like, hey, let's play over here. Let's create our space over here. So we have been doing that where we redirect and move over. But I would like to maybe not have to do that every time in the future. I would like for that merge to hopefully become. But our go-to is usually just remove, move away, like have your own space, try something else, let's do something here. So we
Okay.
definitely do try to stay away from the negative aspect. But I feel like we don't address it like head on.
Okay. Okay. I like what I'm hearing here. I keep doing that. And is it okay if I add something as well?
Yes.
Okay. So when they do intercept and try to parent for you,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I encourage you to set the boundary in a very loving way yet assertive. You come and say, "Hey, mom, don't worry, I got it." But he's being too loud. I understand. I got it. And then
Okay.
you basically are telling them, I am the one parenting him. And if you have something to say about him, tell me and let him know as well. Like, I know sometimes my son may seem too loud for you or touching everything. Hey, if he's being too loud, if he's touching everything, if he's making you uncomfortable, go to me first and I will help you. I will help you.
Okay.
And then that way you kind of like take control on what he hears from the adults, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Now, if they cannot follow a simple boundary, then you will have to reevaluate if how much you want them in around your son.
Right. Yeah, that is something that very recently started happening was creating a little bit of that distance and just focusing just directly one on one.
Mm. Okay, so Stephanie, I want to wrap up with you. So you said I want to know how to be there for myself and love the parts of me that were not loved, and as so I could help my son. So
Yes.
the way to do this is to start loving the parts that you see of you in your son and
Mhm.
do not suppress that authenticity, because those are the parts of you that were wounded growing up that are now
Mhm.
showing up in your son. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. You're already doing it. You are doing great. Like, if you came to this session and you're basically are already doing everything that I would advise a parent to do in your case. The only thing that I added with you is the boundary piece, letting them
Yeah.
know what to do or how to act if they have a complaint about your son.
Okay.
And with that, you'll be good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. What did you get out of this little time with me?
I mean, you told me to love myself. Basically, that's where we have to start. Yeah.
Yeah, you are
Thank
loved and you matter. And thank you so much. I'm going to end the YouTube video. One thing that I want to say, HIC Parenting, myself, we created a free class to help parents like you with highly sensitive nervous systems and with children with highly sensitive nervous systems feel more at peace in their parenting and raise emotionally healthy children. If you want to access this free class, all you have to do is go to hicparenting.com. If you are watching us from YouTube, it's in the description below. Or you can go to my website, hicparenting.com. It's free. All you have to give us is your name, your best email, so we can send it to you. And then you can start transforming your life with a very simple system that 14,151 parents have followed.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to end here. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. Do you have a supportive family? If yes, say yes in the comments. If no, say no. And let's talk about it. Let's support each other. Remember that it only takes understanding of yourself and of your children's needs to transform your parenting. That's parenting with understanding. I'll see you next time.